Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Ashland Planning Board meeting of Thursday, March 27th. A reminder to everyone that the meeting is being broadcast and recorded. I will call the meeting to order at 7:22 p.m., and the first item on our agenda is the clerk's report. Kate?
Thank you, Madam Chair. There has been no correspondence to the Planning Board since the last meeting.
Okay, easy enough, slow week. Next then is public comment. We will open public comment either for people online or in the room.
I'm here to say we're losing another personnel in town hall. I said it to him last night. I mean, the zoning board, last night. I'm gonna say it again. We're losing another, I outlasted another person. We've gone through about 3 or 4 planners since I've been speaking. I've been up there coming to the meetings. We have had a woman here, planner here. I think it was before me. And we're planning, and then those 2 planners we had before. But I was just saying, what is Ashland's loss? Oh, am I on? Oh, good, I gotta repeat all this. That was a dress rehearsal.
Just everyone online, we're having a little difficulty here in the room, so please hold tight.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they're all turned.
It's plugged in, everything.
But, I mean, if we need to replace it with one of these other mics, or,
I mean, I'd have to get under the table and.
You can just sit over there.
oh, yeah, why don't we just?
Mark, why don't you just sit over in the corner and just use that mic?
Yeah. You probably gotta tell the agenda people they can't get it.
Yeah, our agenda's fairly light tonight, so.
Okay, this one's on. Yes. Okay. Yeah? Yes, 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 this. Okay. Sure, when I want to speak, it breaks. Okay, me and Mark Tassoni, 119 Main Street. This seems a little weird doing it from here. From the comprehensive plan was shock, zoning board found out for sure to tonight. Ashland's losing a planner, Mr. Peter going to Braintree. It's Ashland's loss, Braintree's gain. And Navarro, decent size feet to fill. I'm basically saying, I'm very happy to have known Peter for what he has done with me, keeping me behaved and teachable and make sure the information I have is coming from the source. And this town has gone forward because of the team that is there, is Peter and Alvaro and the whole development board up here. And yeah, I know everybody's going to say it this way, but yes, you got to be missed, at least by me, because I have nobody else. No, Alvaro, no offense to you. You're going to be next with the air burning and the brain melting. And I appreciate the time that you had here. Way too short, but it's worth having. It is spring. You're going down to Braintree. They should be real glad to have you. And to end my participation for this time, Red Sox season over. They won tonight. They got 182 to see what happens. Thank you, Peter, for being here. Miss you, and good luck.
Thank you, Mark. I will miss you too, as a resident that attended all the meetings. It's been a pleasure to meet you, to work with you, and I hope you continue to come to the planning board meetings and the zoning board meetings and the comprehensive plan meetings, and keep obviously putting your 100% effort forward. So thank you, Mark.
All right, seeing no more public comments, we will move on to the first item on our agenda, which is the public hearing for the House Street Scenic Road. Can you give us the intro to that, Peter?
Sure. So right now, I'll introduce Matt from Eversource. So this is kind of an annual application we see, sometimes biannually. And so before I jump into the public hearing process, read the public hearing notice on the agenda, Matthew from Eversource is our regional representative from Eversource. He's a certified arborist. And so he's here to present the plan that is going to be presented here tonight. Is that Eversource is looking into, or biannually looks to prune their circuits, right? And so this year, the Howe Street circuit and/or the circuit that Eversource maintains that runs along Howe Street, which is a scenic road, is up for maintenance. And so with this said, Eversource is looking to, I believe, trim back any trees within 10 feet of the wires. Meeting with Eversource, and before we hand it over to Matt to give his presentation, there will be removal of no trees, it is to my understanding. This is removal of any small branches that are within proximity of the wires. So with this said, Matt from Eversource, do you want to please come step up in front of the planning board and tell us a little bit about the application that you are here to present tonight?
Absolutely. Thank you, Peter. So my name is Matthew. I am the Eversource arborist for the area that Ashland falls under. I have been working for Eversource as an arborist either directly or as a contractor for around 7 years. Before that, I studied forestry and environmental science at the University of Vermont. And like Peter said, Howe Street, the circuit on Howe Street is up for our regular maintenance pruning. Our clearance around the wires is 10 by 10 by 15 feet. That is 15 feet above the wires, 10 feet to the bottom of the very top wires on the pole, and 10 feet to the sides. But as Peter just alluded to, this pruning is intended to target smaller diameter growth. We don't have any intention of pruning established leaders of significant size, unless the limbs themselves happen to be dead. And we do this to maintain a safe distance between the tree growth and the electrical wires, both for a worker safety standpoint for our line workers, as well as reliability generally in the town of Ashland, as well as general public safety. If we do not prune these trees and they grow up into the wires, they can catch on fire. That's very dramatic, and definitely not something we want to be seeing happen. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Sorry, Matt, can you just go over again? It's really just for my understanding. It's 10
Yes.
feet to the sides of the wire, is that right?
Yeah, the
And-
very top wires on the pole. So there's a whole bunch of wires on the pole.
Okay,
It's the ones at the very tippy top of the pole that we are
So-
pruning around.
so the ones at the top, you do 10 feet to the side, so horizontally, and then 15 feet down and 15 feet up?
10 feet down and 15 feet up.
10 feet down,
Um,
10 feet down from the top wire or 10 feet down from the bottom wire?
10 feet down from the top wire.
Okay.
And this distance is an industry standard for the Northeast that takes into account the average growth rate of your average New England tree species over the course of 4 years, which is our cycle. And one thing I did forget to mention is that this is just maintenance pruning. This is the same spec, the same specifications, the same work that we did 4 years ago and 4 years ago before that, etc. In that sense, there is no new work being proposed. We are maintaining the clearance that has been already established.
Okay, and so there's nothing in particular that, you've scoped it out, there's nothing, Peter always said there's no actual trees coming down, so there's nothing in particular that's unusual in this maintenance this year?
No, and if there's a large leader for some reason that I think should be pruned, that would be something I would go to Peter and work with the town to see if that's something we could get permission for or not, as well as any removals. But at the moment, there are no tree removals being planned for House Street.
And just to note, Matt met myself. I don't know if you were with me, Alvaro, that day, but Becca Solomon, our tree warden. We do meet on site. We walk, go take a look around, obviously, and if there was something to come up, if a major leader did have to come off, if there was a tree that was identified as a hazard, Matt's obviously going to reach out to myself. She's going to reach out to Becca Solomon, the tree coordinator, the tree warden, and to start that conversation.
Does anyone have any questions?
I do have a question. I think I couldn't find our last decision, but I was happy to see, so we did, I remember us batting around that ANSI 300, so that should be in our decision. They actually applied stating that. But one of the things I'm pretty sure we had in a condition previously was notice, so I think we should hear what kind of notice is going to the people and what their plan is for that.
Notice for the people that live along that route.
Yes.
So normally we have an automated letter notification system that's currently down for maintenance. So instead of automated letters being sent out through the Postal Service, we are actually hand delivering pruning flyers, laying out the what our intentions are and letting people know that we will be in the neighborhood, and there is a callback number to call. And if anyone calls that number and the general Eversource customer service rep is unable to answer your questions about the work being done, they forward your contact information to me directly, and then I will usually arrange a meeting to take a look at the trees. I said that our clearance is 10 by 10 by 15. As long as folks are generally reasonable about the fact that some pruning has to take place for general safety and reliability, I'm very happy to have come to some sort of compromise where everyone is as happy as possible. As far as how far in advance people get the notice, it's a hard question to answer. These circuits can be quite large. If the notifications go out a week before the contractor starts the circuit, if you're on the other end of the circuit from where they started, you may not see them for a month. But like I said, if people have questions, there is a number that they can call to get in touch with me after a few steps.
All right, any other questions? Okay, so this is something that,
No,
this is something we need to vote and approve, and there's a decision, or,
So typically, what we typically do is write a memo,
okay,
like an approval memo, just a one-pager.
I couldn't remember.
And so we can do that. I think traditionally, I don't know if the whole full chair even signed that. I think it could have just been you, Tricia. I can go back and look, but next week, obviously, if it's approved, we'll draft up a memo, we'll send it around, and the planning board can kind of come in and sign the memo, and go from there.
Okay. Any other questions?
Should we make a motion for the memo or just?
I think yes, because I think we take a
Alright.
vote.
So I was going to say, it seems pretty straightforward to me to approve it in light of the fact that there's no trees being removed and it's a fairly minimal trim. So I'll make a motion to approve the petition by Eversource Energy regarding the Howe Street Scenic Road.
Can I make a friendly amendment to that, subject to conditions of minimum 1 week notice, no trees being removed, notification to town if there has to be removal hazardous, ANSI 300 pruning. And I think it's not a bad idea to put that size as well that they said.
That size?
The size, the 10 by 10.
Oh.
by 50, but
Okay. I mean, it's in
I'm
the,
not sure that has to be, but the other thing is,
The 10-foot, the sides and bottom,
yeah,
and 15 above,
yeah.
okay, so we'll
to
put,
include the specifications from the description of relief.
Mhm.
That's, seems reasonable. Does that make sense, Peter?
okay, so
So 1 week notification,
dimensions,
dimensions, ANSI 300, and then if a tree was to be determined a hazard, that they would notify the town. Is that correct, Kate?
Before.
Prior to removal?
Yep.
okay, so those things would be added to the memo. We can have that, we can have a memo circulated to the board. If there's no changes, then,
We can come in and sign it.
okay. Can we do that in 2 weeks, or do they need it sooner, where I'll just sign
Hey,
it?
hey, Matt, just out of curiosity, the board just wants to talk about timing. Now, it was to my understanding, when does Eversource plan to come into Ashland?
That's a good question. This is the only circuit that we have in Ashland this year. I would expect it would happen at some point over the summer, but that can change depending on what's going on with other towns. For example, one of our biggest hurdles is police detail availability. That may change, but I would imagine it would be, at this point, it's going to be in the summer.
Okay, so if we plan that we'll sign it at our next meeting, that we'll have the document and sign it at our next meeting, then that would just be 2 weeks from today. That's acceptable, I assume?
Yeah, I'll just answer that question, Matt. I think the planning board's talking about writing a memo, and then we'll approve and sign it 2 weeks from today, and then you guys will be able to put this on your work schedule. Does that work for Eversource?
That is perfect.
Okay, great. All right, so we'll do that memo, but we might as well just take the vote now so that we can, if there's any issue, we can just get it signed.
Yep.
So,
So I'll make a motion to approve the petition as amended.
all right, roll call vote.
Second,
Oh, second, right?
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Catherine Jersey guy.
And Tricia Kendall, aye. Okay. That is approved. And we'll have that for you in 2 weeks.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, y'all have a good evening.
You too. All right, next on our agenda are the proposed bylaw changes. We had the forum 2 weeks ago when we talked about these. So we just wanted to go through, obviously, the remaining questions and anything that was hanging out there that wanted to be resolved before it then gets submitted to what? What happens next, Alvaro? Newspaper?
Yeah, I will submit it simultaneously to the newspaper and to Jen for it to be in the warrant.
Can I ask a quick question about the overlay, the floodplain overlay? Do we need Concom to
Yeah, I think
comment
it
on
got,
that at all, or is that done?
Yeah, I sent it to Becca to review
Okay.
because the one change that we had from one of the changes that we had, it was to see we could take out some of the zones since they didn't
Okay.
apply to the geography of Ashland. So she did review it. She sent me an email
Okay.
saying that it was good.
From Becca or from Commission itself? Conservation Commission itself, or, I guess I
From the
wanted to make
conservation agent. Just the
Okay.
conservation agent.
I guess I'm asking if we need to give it to the Conservation Committee itself.
I think if the planning board wants to
I'm
reach
just
out,
asking the question.
I think in the time being, I think we've worked with Becca. She's kind of helped us kind of mold this bylaw to make sure it kind of
She has
fits
no
with her.
concerns.
And she has no concerns. So if you want us to, I think in the process, as we obviously put it in the newspaper and get ready for the public hearing, if you would want to get consensus and/or an opinion from the Conservation Commission, we are more than happy to submit this to
If there's
through Becca.
time, I don't think that would hurt to just kind of formalize, because I believe it's concurrent jurisdiction on this with them, so.
I don't think we don't have time to go in front of Conservation Commission and,
No.
so they can look at it once it's in the paper, but,
But
it is,
But we're not I'm guessing we're not publishing the text of this in the paper.
No, but it's on file with the town clerk.
Okay.
yeah, so it
Yeah,
can't be
so
changed.
typically, you don't change it.
Are we having a public hearing at some point on it?
Yes.
Yes.
So what's the harm of giving it as a courtesy to Concom, so if they wanted to.
can come to the
if they
public
wanted-
hearing, yeah.
They
Sure,
can come to
yeah.
the
No,
public
that's-
hearing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it seems like we have plenty of time to basically say to them, hey, we're having a public hearing on this. If you have some comment you want us to consider, please submit it for the public hearing.
Yeah, it just can't be changed. The wording will be
Yeah.
set by that
Because
point.
it will
can't
be sent to the newspaper by the 4th, I believe is the max.
I mean, it's better than nothing is what I'm saying, so.
Yeah, no, it's fine. So,
That was my only comment on that one.
yeah, and most of this is about what has to get a special permit. It's kind of about that. Everything on here has to go through Concom anyway, like,
Yeah.
Correct.
so they, no matter what we do here, it all goes through Concom, no matter what we say
Yeah,
here.
anything that happens on the floodplain will
So-
be their, it's already their jurisdiction.
Yeah.
No, I get that, but we're changing the bylaw. So anyway, moving on. It sounds like we're going to hand it to them informally.
So is that what we're looking, let's go through that first. Is that what we're looking at first, is the
Oh.
floodplain?
That seems to be the first one.
In the order. So the use regulations 8.1.4, and then that 8.1.6 got added, and it kind of conflicts, so I'm not sure how that all works. Because you're like, hey, agricultural uses are fine, and in 8.1.4, and then you go to 8.1.6, and it's like, no, you might need a permit, and that just seems odd, the way that's written.
Well, I don't think so, because the first one is about use of the land, such as farming, grazing, I don't know what truck farming is, horticulture, it's the plants, like you're planting stuff there. But in 8.1.6, it's called, placement of agricultural facilities, like buildings, like, structures, things that aren't plants, right? So the first thing is all just about planting, water, plants, wildlife management. You're not actually, fishing, you're not actually doing anything to the land.
I mean, I guess I would say if you're farming, you might have a fence, and that's where I saw it. And then it does say 8.1.6 is a fence, not just a building.
Right, but a fence isn't an agricultural use. Farming is the
Yeah.
agricultural use, growing things, right? But constructing something falls under something else. So you would need to, that's why these are in two sections. If you're just planting some stuff, you do this. If you're trying to erect something, you have to look at the other one. So, and actually, there's 3 levels here. The 8.1.4 is, like I said, just the planting, the forestry and nursery, whatever. 8.1.5 is where, is the real, like, special permit. Building or structure that's erected, constructed, substantially improved, reconstructed, all those things, comes before the planning board for a special permit. The third thing, 8.1.6, was what we were talking about, that, gosh, does the planning board really want someone to hear something about a fence or a post or a sign? My vote was no. We have a lot of other, I think, things that we could or should be doing with our time. And so if things fall in that, then 8.1.6 says that it goes to an FPOD work permit, which would be issued by the building commissioner, so that we're not having to deal with those things. But even things in 8.1.6 go in front of conservation. A fence goes to conservation. So, so they're gonna pick up everything, even if we're only gonna focus on the big stuff, so. I think that was the biggest kind of change in there.
Yeah, and that kind of falls into line with the state was looking for and also what other communities are doing as well. So,
Oh, I did have one more question overall. We kept wondering about that recreational vehicle thing.
Oh, so we did email ECR.
I did email the waterways, our area waterways. So I think, again, I gotta look into it. 1 minute. I gotta look at it again. So this is, it's a little bit tricky, right? So an AE, all recreational vehicles or campers to be placed on the site must be elevated or anchored in accordance with the zone regulations or for foundation and elevation requirements, or be on the site for less than 100 consecutive days, or be fully licensed and road ready. So if your RV,
Actually, I just noticed something. Didn't Becca told us to take out A and EA zones because we're not in them? You have it, right? Those weren't in our zones, isn't that right? Or are those zones still in?
those still, we have A and AE. We
Oh,
don't
those are
have-
still in, okay.
Yeah, we don't have V.
V,
So
okay,
everything
sorry.
V is out, which is a
Got it, sorry.
velocity zone.
I was thinking about
Which is
V.
more of a coastal, kind of a dune. We took out sand dunes, but also a velocity zone where waves obviously hit. If you're thinking thinking Situate, right? In the big storms, right? Those are velocity zones where you have to build up on stilts. That's a velocity zone.
Right, okay.
So when you talk about.
Sorry, so A and AE, I'm sorry, I was confused there.
So when you're talking about a recreational vehicle, so number one, if you're Winnebago, right, is fully licensed, and road ready, that can stay on the property, right? Because in the event of a flood, it's drivable. You can get it out of there, right? And I think that's where it comes into, then you look at the second part, you say, okay, to be on a site for less than 180 days, right? So you're saying if your site is if your RV, I'm gonna say Winnebago, is gonna be on the site for greater than 180 days and is not licensed and is not road ready, then yes, you have to create a, anchor and or foundation. So what they're saying is, yes, you have to build a foundation and bring it up to the elevation of that flood zone.
So it's basically if you're using one of these maybe as a home,
Correct.
and then it has to be,
Yeah, and then that one, the zoning will play into account. So this building inspector will have to look at the zone where they
Okay.
are located, and then based on that, they can decide what is the actual elevation.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Because I know we were looking at the term anchor, and I'm throwing out, anchor, is it like a mooring or what's going on? But really, it's a foundation. You have to attach it to the ground. In the word anchor, foundation. But that's only in the instance that it's not roadworthy, it's not licensed, and it hasn't moved off the site for 180 days, and it still rests within that floodplain.
Okay,
And so, with confidence, I say, we're most likely, there's not any of these indoor, slim to none, within Metro West that's actually gonna fit into this exact qualification. So I think we're taking the words for the state proposed, but that's how you would theoretically implement that definition.
okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Any further questions on that before we What do we need? We don't really need a formal vote on these. We're sending them off. We're just sending the final wording off and
Submitting them to the warrant.
we're
sending
submitting them to the
off,
warrant.
And then we're
sending
gonna start the public hearing process.
Okay.
With Alvaro will start the public hearing process, which is obviously
Advertise it.
newspaper notification to the state, to the regional planning agency, to all abutting towns.
So I think technically we should vote for each one to go on to the warrant,
Okay,
Probably.
that's fine.
right? Do we need, I mean, I don't have any changes to the floodplain or the accessory dwellings. Do we need to talk about the,
I do,
oh,
an
you do,
accessory
okay,
dwelling.
got it,
Yeah, there's
sorry.
things
You want
that-
to do one at a time? So I'll
Yes.
make a motion to send the draft floodplain overlay district, section 8.1 of Ashland zoning bylaw changes on to the next step of this to be on the warrant.
All right, second,
Second,
roll call vote.
Anna Tesmanitsky.
Catherine Jersey.
Tricia Kendall, aye. Okay, so that one's gone. Accessory dwelling unit. So there were a few, well, I mean, from last time, we basically added on the definitions.
Yeah.
Which I hope someday will come out of here and be placed in the definition section of the bylaw. But for right now, we can't do that. We need them within this bylaw. So the definitions were added on there. Kate, I saw that you had a few edits that came through. So,
Yeah, so I mean, they're in this clean version, the ones that kind of had to be made. The ones that I think are still left, so the 7.6.4 exterior appearance and size. So I feel like the 2 and the 3, where the ADU has an entrance on the front facade of the dwelling, an ADU entrance shall be secondary appearance. And the stairways on the front, and maybe it's actually another one, yeah, no, just those 2. So you're not supposed to be making any rules that were more restrictive than you would ask for a single family, and those are. So I don't know that I mean, Lisa Mead looked at it, but that doesn't mean it would be accepted. But it doesn't mean it won't. But I feel like it's not great to put a situation like I think we should be doing what the state asked to make these streamlined and doable. And so the only way someone can do it is like appeal and say you're making it more restrictive, and that costs money and time to the average regular homeowner. So I feel like we have to seriously say, why are we asking? I mean, I drove by houses tonight that don't meet those, right? But there's houses, single family or maybe multifamily homes that have stairs that aren't enclosed, right? That's an expense we're asking people to do in 7.4.3 that you wouldn't have with a single family. And we're expressly prohibited from doing it. Now, again, Lisa Mead said fine, so it's up to somebody who doesn't want the expense and try to challenge, and lawyers are expensive, no offense, Anna, but, so I think that we should try to clean this up and keep it streamlined in keeping with the intent, which is do not ask for anything you wouldn't be asking for a single-family dwelling.
yeah, I think in the bylaw, I think they do allow for wanting the ADU to fit into the single-family zoning district. So,
Well, there's quite a few dispensations for historic that you actually can make. We don't currently have historic they're considering, so we didn't go that angle and split this for the potential historic district. It's pretty clear about not making something, I mean, that is in the wording if you go to the state website.
yeah, I mean, I think that's, it's kind of pretty extreme interpretation kind of that. So I don't know. I think, I don't know. You know, Lisa Mead looked at this, thought it was okay. If the state crosses it out, they cross it out. I don't know
Yeah,
what the,
Lisa's looked
you
at
know,
this. and-
you know,
I mean, no offense, but Lisa Mead had some wrong stuff last time, too.
yeah, that's
so-
fine.
Yeah,
Well, I know, I get
We can
it,
take
but
a
I'm just
chance
saying-
once in a
Yeah.
while on something, right?
Yeah.
I will say
no.
this, though, you know, reviewing what other towns are looking to do, right? This is very streamlined. Our bylaw, our proposed bylaw here is very streamlined, and other bylaws in other communities that I've seen are much more restrictive when it comes to architectural design, how things step back, interior stairways, and so I think these are probably on the least side of restrictive as anything.
But, so
'Cause we're sa-
7.3, what is, 7.6.4.3, what is the justification? When I drove here today, just from my house getting here and saw houses that had stairways not enclosed, going up to their second floor. And so it just seems bizarre that we're pushing something more restrictive.
I would say that it is against maintaining the single-family character of neighborhoods containing ADUs, which is in 7.6.1. So that would be my
Even
argument.
though we currently have, yeah. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, and how do you feel about how they look?
Yeah.
Does it add to the character of the town?
But I think that it's kind of making, I mean, housing and affordability is kind of the primary thing.
Right, it
That's
is the
why
pri-
that law was made.
Right, it is the primary thing, so that's why we have all of these things allowing ADUs by right, but we also don't allow as many ADUs as you want by right. You know, we don't allow them to be bigger than a certain size. So there's definitely restrictions on them already that aren't on a single-family house. So, you know, we stripped everything else out of there, you know, but I think my concern is that one way of doing this would be to take your third floor, make it into an ADU. Great, if you can do that. But I don't think you can do it at the expense of the neighborhood. You know, I think there needs to be, some consideration about the best way to add an ADU to your property. So that's where I'm coming from on this. I would even have a stipulation on there unless, with the stair, unless reviewed by the planning board. I don't know if we can do that. So it might not be that we can't do that, so otherwise we leave it in as is, you know.
I mean, I don't think we want to, because that's not in keeping, but we actually could ask for site plan review of these ADUs. That's actually allowed, but I'm not asking for that, I'm just saying we could. The other thing, I think, I don't quite understand why the setbacks got absent from here. I know there was the setbacks about smaller lots, but I'm wondering if we want to consider, I think it got written out, it just said it had to meet the setbacks, right?
Yeah,
And I
you
think
mean
that got written out on this version.
Yeah,
the one with the smaller lots?
No, I think we had something that it had to meet setbacks anyway, like our just standard, we're trying to keep it simple, and I think that got taken out of this version.
I see. Yeah, there was language that said the ADU shall be fully located within the dimensional setbacks of the zoning district, and then it went to the small.
So
so
why
we
did
gotta
we
add
take that
that
out?
first.
Yeah.
We have
The
to add that
first-
first sentence back in. That's a good catch, Kate.
Okay.
And number two.
Yep.
Yeah, because you know what's funny, and Alvaro can explain a little bit better, is that the state rolled out their final regulations on January 26th of 2025, and then on the 31st, they issued another set of
Yeah.
final regulations. The change was they deleted this 10,000 square foot. This second sentence here says, except that a detached ADU located on a lot which is 10,000 square feet or less may have a side or rear setback of 5 feet. So I think adding that, you are correct, Kate, to add that first sentence back in.
Yeah, I don't think that's a big ask with the stairs. It's just saying, don't put it on the front. Don't come and have it coming out a front window. It can be on the sides. You know, and unless otherwise required by applicable provisions of the state building code. So like if there's no other way to do it, say, you know, the building code would still say you have to have a second means of egress, and so, you know, I think that's just barely asking for something.
I agree. I concur, you know, that
So,
it's just a, you know, I don't think it's that, I think it's a small ask for what this bylaw is. And I think especially in relation to other communities' bylaws, regulations about ADUs. And I think it goes back to the intent of 7.61, right? Is to maintain a single-family character of the neighborhoods. And I think the residents of Ashland in single-family houses would support that clause more than anything, you know, as this gets, you know, put on to the state, to all communities, you know, through the housing bill. So I think Ashland should keep it in.
Anna?
I mean, I can go either way. I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the public a version that's consistent with state law as our first attempt to do this. Presumably, we're going to revisit this from time to time, so that's, I mean, I think it's good as is. I can see both points on this one. I'm kind of neutral on this. I just want it to pass with the public.
And I think also if you keep it in, and if it doesn't pass the sniff test by the AG's office, have them red flag it. But I think
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
I think you got to keep it in to meet that purpose. Because look, and I think the other thing is, Ashland is a majority a single-family community, you know, and you want to keep that
But
character.
And if Kate feels strongly about it, I can see it.
This is also something at town meeting, the way town meeting works, that there could be a motion to eliminate number 3, could there not?
There could be,
I mean,
yeah.
is that
On town meeting floor, you could edit, and you could eliminate, but you could not add.
Right.
You know, and so I think if it's that big of a discussion point, open it up for a public hearing. And then, go to the public hearing with it in, and then go to town meeting floor. And if there's an amendment on town meeting floor, take that angle.
I mean, generally, I think we did a pretty good job of stripping out and keeping it clean and simple, which is, I think, what the intent, and I think what makes the most sense, right? If you want to believe in it to potentially provide housing. So
So you want to
no,
remove.
just leave it alone. We'll just keep going. We're good. We need all the edits I sent today and the one tonight, though.
Yeah, yeah.
which
Yeah, I think we took
Three of them
those.
are in. and-
Those were great edits. No, it was great to incorporate those.
Yeah, so we'll put the deleted, okay. So we'll leave it in, and we'll see, like, I'm fine if it goes up for discussion later. If the AG's office says nope and crosses it out, it gets crosses out,
Yeah.
you know. So, and we'll put back in, the ADU should be fully located within the dimensional setbacks. Yep, so that
Yes.
goes back in.
Took that note.
And then on the next page, something that I caught, which I think Kate also noted, and I said I couldn't believe I didn't see this before. In parking, all motor vehicles owned or maintained by occupants. I'm like, no. It was supposed to be one. Like one, so that, yeah, so we're going to just put one motor vehical.
The clean version has that
Yeah.
already.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking
Yeah.
at my old version. Okay. Sorry, I was looking at my edited version. Okay, great. So, and then obviously the definitions that are in the current section of definitions will be taken out, and this will all be self-contained. So. Is there any other comments or changes we want on that?
So I can make a motion to approve with Kate's changes that she emailed, right? The
the-
accessory dwelling.
They're-
The clean version
They're
has
in
all
all
the
but
changes,
the one we did tonight are in already.
6.4.2.
Great, so with that change, to get the accessory dwelling unit, section 8 of chapter 150, to move forward to the next step in the town warrant.
Second,
Roll call.
Test minutes, aye.
Catherine Jersey, aye.
And Tricia Kendall, aye. Okay, so that's taken care of. And then the last one, simplest one.
That one was just 9.4.5 site plan review, but that one had no comments from nobody on the board from last time.
And that's moving the 30 days to 65 days to match up with the special permit requirements.
So here you're just, on the sheet, you're giving everything, but the actual change, the actual bylaw is just in section 3, is it?
Yeah, it's in section 3.
Or you're, because we're not taking all this out, and,
Yeah, all this stuff stays.
right,
Yeah.
so it's just
1
section.
and 2 stay.
Oh,
And the-
like putting it on the warrant as just,
Aren't we? Like,
Yeah,
we're-
yeah,
on the-
we are.
On the warrant,
I
it's
guess I
just
just
gonna
gave
be,
it for context.
Okay.
The whole thing.
it's gonna be 3, yeah, and it's just the planning board shall hold a public hearing.
Mhm.
I believe in I think we have the current language, I believe, is,
Fact-finding meeting.
yeah,
Right,
a
right.
fact-finding meet, exactly. Public hearing, obviously, within 65 days, and then we also add, notification shall be provided in compliance with Master General Law, Chapter 48, Section 11. That is what we do already today. That's the newspaper, 14 days prior to, that's notification within 300 feet of the locus. And so obviously, we're just verifying that within the bylaw.
so in the 65 days of the receipt of the application, is that like receipt of the, do we
That's
have, do we have it in the same way that the receipt of the complete application, or?
Yep. It's in, I think it's verbatim.
It's the same wording?
Yep, for the
Okay.
special permit.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Assume everyone's good with that?
Seems that way. Kate?
I make a motion that we accept the modification for section 9.4.5.3, procedures for site plan review, to pass it along next steps for town meeting.
I'll second that.
Roll call vote.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Catherine Jersey, aye.
And Tricia Kendall, aye. Okay. So bylaw changes are on their way. Yay. Next, discussion and comments for 61 Waverly Street, 40B comprehensive permit application. So this was for the second 40B project, the zoning board of appeals.
Want to skip down to 6,
Oh,
discussion of, 7.
oh yeah, we can do that. Peter just made me aware that the applicants for number 7, 100 Chestnut Street, for the signage are on, and so we might as well take care of that first to not leave them waiting. So we will skip down to number 7. 7 Chestnut Street, Asher Development. This is regarding the signage there, correct, Peter?
Correct. So the Asher Development, 900 Chestnut Street, the last phase of the Village Americas. Mr. Roy McDowell is here tonight, and so in accordance with the 100 Chestnut Street Special Permit and Site Plan Review, Special Condition 5, the planning board will review the proposed installation of the tenant directory sign at the entrance of 90 and 100 Chestnut Street. If you remember a few months ago, I believe it was right prior, it was kind of leading up to the holiday break, we reviewed 2 signs for the residential development. I'm happy to say that, we toured the development. It's getting very close to completion. Actually, the town issued temporary occupancy, so the leasing office could get opened up, and so they can start kind of that leasing effort. But with this said, we're here tonight to discuss the proposed tenant directory sign that you can see on the map here, and then on the back page. And this would be obviously sitting along Chestnut Street, and it would be an area where the tenants taking up that 10,500 square feet of commercial space, their businesses could be listed. this sign is not internally lit. It's gonna be uplit from landscape lighting. And it will sit facing Chestnut Street. Furthermore, Economic Development Director Beth Reynolds has also supplied us with a letter, and I just kind of want to make note of that. So without any more interruption, I believe Mr. Roy McDowell is here tonight. Roy and/or whoever is on from the McDowell Group, please feel free and unmute yourself and fill the board in with any information that I may have skipped over.
Sir Peter, Roy McDowell here this evening. Yes, we had met with Peter, the building inspector, and with Beth. We've had a number of showings for the various spaces that we have. And the first comment everyone has is, can there be a sign near the street so people even know we're here? And just to give a listing of the various commercial uses that would be on the property. So it gives a sense of synergy between the players. It's relatively speaking, it's small. The letters are only about 3.5 inches tall. So it's not a large sign. It's really just more informational.
Yeah, the other sign that we discussed previously, it's on the corner, right?
Yes, it's directly opposite this one.
Right, on the corner coming up the hill. I think I can see it on the drawing. Yeah.
And then there's also one here.
Oh, and there's one on the, as you enter, there's the one on the right-hand side too that just says the Asher or something like that.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And they're both the same color theme, so we're not mixing and matching.
Right, I remembered that from the previous submission. Okay. Any comments?
I don't think that meets the requirement of our bylaw, right, our sign bylaw size. I think there's a size in our regulations.
I think it's actually quite smaller than most commercial signs in town.
Do we have that? Do
Yeah.
you have the? I didn't look at that before the meeting. Do we have the bylaws sitting there? It seems to me, actually, it's only 5 feet tall. It seems quite 5 by 4. It seems 5, I think it says 5, 3.5 by 4 feet.
I think ours is 4 square. It actually calls it 4 foot square, I think.
Oh, we're looking at the bylaw right now. Obviously, the sign's gonna have to be issued, a sign permit's gonna be is gonna be issued by the building commissioner. So a building permit does have to be pulled. And so Doug is going to have to review this to make sure it fits in with that bylaw.
Sign permit shall be subjected to the following restrictions. No sign shall exceed 4 square feet in size. No more than 2 signs shall be
Attached to a vehicle.
It doesn't say 4, it can't say 4 square feet, can it?
It does.
I think it's 4 feet square.
Okay, that's what I was
Yes.
wondering.
yeah.
No, it says, no? No, it doesn't. It says, no sign shall exceed 4 feet square.
4 square feet in size.
Yeah, it says, no sign shall exceed 4 square feet in size, which means it's 2 by 2.
Yeah, that can't be right.
No, that can't be
Yeah.
right. That can't be right. There's no
of all
sign in Ashland
signs,
that's like this.
2 by 2. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so there's something strange about that. Okay.
Let me ask you, would you consider approving it subject to the approval of a permit by the building commissioner?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little surprised by our bylaws here, if that they're that off, because there's, I mean, every school sign is bigger than 4 square feet, right?
Yeah.
So there's obviously, and yeah, so there's obviously a
Well,
issue here.
and I think that's just the point. I mean, this sign does not seem unreasonable. I will not vote for it. I will be abstaining because we need to clean up our bylaws. We cannot, it doesn't say, or as the planning board
Right,
decides they
I
like.
get what you're saying, but we can't do anything on it with a 3 board member and 1 person abstaining, right, this evening, so.
That's a vote to abstain, I think.
Right, but that means that there's a no, that we can't do anything with it because we
don't
only
think-
have 2 members.
No, because it's present
She's
and that's a vote,
abstaining.
yeah.
I think we have a quorum.
Yeah.
have a
We vote
quorum.
for it and she abstains. I think it passes.
Yeah.
I don't see why not. I think, we do have a quorum, we can
Yeah.
vote, and
I also would suggest this should be a quick fix for the next town meeting.
Yes.
So
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
I would suggest we send a memo over to, I don't know if we want to give this to design review. Someone should be delegated to investigate a better way for this.
I mean,
to be
I
fixed.
would agree, and I appreciate Beth's letter, and I don't think that sign is, I just, in conscience, am not, if it said planning board can decide, that's a different story. So I think the economic development group would probably be appropriate to be part of that. But I think when things are black and white, wrong or not, the expectation is we follow them. So
So why don't we create do we need a decision on this? What do we do?
I think so.
Can
So
I
why
ask
don't
a-
why don't we put in the decision that,
I think it's gonna be approval by with approval by the building commissioner.
sure,
Yeah,
contingent on that?
contingent upon that.
And we could also put in there that we're gonna prioritize amending the bylaw if we wanted to, just to kind of make it cleaner for the future, because it is weird that we're just sort of doing whatever it is we want to do.
Exactly.
Because
Oh, that's one of those things where the bylaws is just, it's glitchy.
yeah, I
so-
mean, I think we talk a lot about like, let's clean up the bylaws, but we don't
We don't
necessarily have
do it.
time. So this would be a great way to kind of do it. Like, hey, it comes up. Let's approve this, but also let's get this on our agenda for the next round for the fall.
Do you have in front of you how big the other sign is across the way that we approved?
I can, look.
I'm just curious, like, what,
It's about 5 by 7 feet.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because this question was brought up at that time, and there was something relative to I think it was the length of the frontage and something else where we more than qualified. I'll give you an example. Over at Cirrus, the sign over there is 6 by 7.5 feet.
Oh,
It's 44, it's 44 square feet.
yeah, I have no doubt about anything like that. This was actually a design question, like I'm wondering, okay, if this one's 5 feet high, is the one across the other one, you said 5 by 7, so they're similar height, right? That's what I was asking.
Similar height and half the width.
Yeah, that's all I was asking. It's a design question. So the matters of the bylaws are someone else's mistake in the past and our task to clean them up. So, yeah, I'm comfortable with that, like, because that's what we've been doing all up till now, is sending it to the building commissioner, and,
fine.
and another thing we'll have to fix. We'll get on that one right away.
Do we need a motion?
Sure.
So I'll make a motion to approve the Asher development proposal for the sign contingent on building commissioner approval and inclusion in our decision that will prioritize the bylaw change for the next town meeting. Not the one that's coming up, but the fall one.
Second,
All right.
Anna
And
Tesmanitsky, aye.
Catherine Jersey abstain.
Tricia Kendall, aye. So, all right, so make sure we have those couple notes in the decision.
Yep,
Is that a decision or is that a memo?
it's a memo.
A memo, in
It's
the
a
memo.
Yep.
Okay.
It will just
Yep.
validate.
That's should be an easy one to clean up, if not, actually,
Yeah.
looking at the signage would take longer, cleaning up those little things would take a little bit more time, but needs to be done. Okay.
All right,
right.
thank you, Roy.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, board.
Thank you. All right, so, why don't we, Okay, so the re-signing, sorry, the re-signing, number 8, and I'll get back to that in a minute, but the re-signing of the approval not required, is that behind me right now?
Yeah, that's behind us, and that can wait till the end of the meeting, if we want to.
I kind of, in a way, want to get it done so that we
Okay.
don't get distracted,
Yeah.
and we can go up there, sign it,
Okay.
get it done. Because this discussion, then we can just,
Focus on.
We're signing now?
yeah, we're going to
Okay.
sign now.
Okay,
And just
that's
get it out of the
fine.
way.
Yeah, just to kind of tell everybody what happened, is I wrote the wrong date on the plan that we all signed at the last meeting. So I wrote May 13th instead of March 13th. And so, so we do not record a plan with the wrong date. The applicant has submitted a new A&R plan that we can sign right now. So,
Set it up and we'll come sign it, and then we'll get on with our agenda. Low-hanging fruit, you know, it feels good.
While Peter's setting it up, do you want to talk about some other item? Or you just want to, it's all good.
yeah, so.
March, because that's when we took the vote.
I was gonna say me on March 13th, because that's when the meeting.
Okay. And do you need more than 3 on there? You're gonna have to chase anyone down?
Majority of the board,
Okay.
A&Rs, don't really need more than that.
All right, so you should put it on there, so it's all complete. March. 'Cause otherwise, you'll get distracted and put a different date on it. Take care of it. Okay. All right, so that's done. That's done. All right, so we can, yeah, so the things on the agenda left is this discussion of 61 Waverly, which is important but not, doesn't have a deadline. And we obviously need to do the meeting minutes, and then under administrative A, there's a little bit of discussion about the search for a new town planner and the information I have on that, so.
Okay.
If you want to take care of the easy stuff and go back to
Sure.
61 Waverly,
Sure.
we can
I
do
had
that.
no changes to the minutes. We want to talk about the minutes, get that out of the way.
Frankly, I didn't even look at them, so give me just a minute here. I was too busy reading bylaws. Is this now on a different letterhead and stuff? Is it?
It is.
Did
so
it
the
officially
town of A-
change?
The Ashland officially changed its letterhead.
Are you
so-
sure you want to leave? We got new letterhead here.
Tempting.
I know. Okay, I am good.
Make a motion to accept the minutes from the March 13th, 2025 Planning Board meeting as presented.
I'll second that.
Roll call vote.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Catherine Jersey, aye.
And Tricia Kendall, aye. So those are
Talk
taken
through the town planner search.
Yes, so, okay, so, Jen Ball contacted me last week, I think on Tuesday, to, talk about the process for finding a town planner. They're following the same process that they did, when they went through finding Peter, and also for a recent member of the, of the Board of Health, so that would have been for the
Board of Health Director position.
director
Yep.
position, okay. So, and that is, that the position will be posted, did you put that posting in the binders? Okay,
Sorry.
I think I
didn't
have
put
it.
the posting.
I printed it with me. Did you get it? Okay.
I have it.
Just so we
I
can,
print it
we
out.
can see it, it's the same one that went in last time. So it is already on the town website, it's on Indeed, which is where I saw it, it's on, let's see here. Oh. Posted on the town website, Indeed.com, MMMA, which is the Massachusetts Municipal Association website, Mass AMA, the American Planners Association, APA,
Mass APA.
Mass APA.
Which is the Massachusetts chapter of the American Plan Association.
Thank you, I can't get that one right.
Yeah, it's a tough one. And MMA is the Massachusetts Municipal Association. That is where typically all municipal jobs are posted. I told Tricia, anywhere from a DPW to a town manager job. That's where typical stuff, municipal jobs are posted.
Okay, so the position is posted, I think Overall's getting copies of that posting. So basically, Jen is setting up an interviewing committee, which consists of her, the assistant town planner. She is the assistant town manager. Consists of her, Catherine Bird, who is the HR director, and 2 members of the planning board. So one of them, as the chair, was going to be myself. The other one is open to whoever can fit what will be daytime interviewing into their schedule. That interviewing could be just like a single day. They would try to put things all in one day, or to combine it as quickly, as condensedly as possible, so that someone didn't have to try to get out of work or stay home from Boston too often, right? So, like I said, the position is posted, they are getting applications in, and it would be, but the deadline is really just until the position is filled. It's not, we're going to stop at this time and just choose one of the candidates. It has to be a candidate that obviously fits, that is a good candidate for the town. So when we have maybe 4 or 5 good resumes or qualified candidates, that's when the interview committee would kind of go into effect, when there's that many qualified ones that fit the qualifications. Those candidates would be interviewed, and then the 1 or 2, depending how many the group decides to put forward, will then be put forward to the town manager as a recommended candidate or candidates. So I think what would be helpful would be to, obviously we don't have Amanda here, but and Deepa's not here. So we'd want to see who has interest in serving on that. I also would like to get possible questions from the board about what we would want to ask the applicants. Kind of like we did for the associate position, or, to ask the same question to each applicant. And other than that, I'm interested in looking for feedback on that process, so.
Okay. Do you want questions from us by a particular date, and you're gonna kind of, how do you want to go about this? Do you want,
I mean, we can discuss questions in another meeting. I don't know how quickly, I don't think we know how quickly these, like,
interviews will happen?
yeah,
Are
or
they- I think our
suitable
next
candidates
meeting-
will
So our next
happen.
meeting is April 10th. Do we have enough time to bring our questions to that meeting?
I think so, but I can keep, I mean, we'll still have to even find a second person if I
Yeah.
assume we would like a
So-
second
So
person.
my whole thing, I'm more than happy to participate if it's during the day. If they're all like squeezed into a half day or something, and there's some notice, in theory, I could take some time off from work and be there. Ideally, if they're spread out and it's like midday, like a lunchtime, I can, it depends how many we're talking about, like 10, 4, like, I don't know. what we're-
I think she was
So-
hoping for, just based on other things, like hoping for 4 to 5 and putting it into, maybe not a half day, but a
a chunk.
thirds day, kind of thing. And be able to do them ideally all at the same time, but it could be 2 different afternoons, just so that you can really
Yeah.
compare candidates versus trying to
Right.
remember over succeeding weeks about what that might be.
I mean, if
Yeah.
we can get for the next planning board meeting, like a schedule or something, we can figure out which one of us is available and come up with the questions. It might be helpful to send our questions to Alvaro prior to the next meeting and have him put them together for our next meeting's discussion. I'm just kind of trying to think of a process that might work.
Yeah, I think we'll just have to, in a way, see where we are in that 2 weeks. It's like, obviously, you don't know the rate at which applications would come in. Apparently, unfortunately, there are four maybe other planning board director positions also being advertised out there. So there's maybe a lot of openings for people.
Yeah, there's a lot moving around. I
yeah.
have no idea. I just want to make a note that I think if you're going to send questions, I think they're probably better off going to either Tricia and or Jen Ball directly, or HR Director Catherine Bird. Just to make, obviously they are the professionals and, human resources officer we're going to running this search. And so I think if you were going to send questions, I think to alleviate Alvaro to have to collect, I think you're better off sending them to Jen.
But I think we need to agree, the planning
Okay.
board needs to agree what questions we have to ask first before
Okay.
they get
Yeah,
sent to
so
Jen.
I would say send them
The point
to,
is, we would send it to either.
I would say
us-
send them
Just
to
to
me.
That would be a
collect it.
violation potentially of open meeting law. So, right? I don't think sending them to you is a good idea. If we all send them to you, we're having off-the-record conversations. I think what we need to do prior to the next meeting is, if we have feedback, we as a planning board, it sounds like what I'm hearing is, we as a planning board may have questions we want to ask this particular candidate. So we need to get our questions as a planning board together and agree to them as a planning board, which means we send them to Alvaro for our next meeting. We can't send them to you, because then we're having off-the-record conversations with you, all individually, which is a violation of open meeting law.
No, it's only if I take your information and I give it to Kate and I
No, because
It's like the
that's
serial.
not my reading. It's a
yeah.
serial
It would be-
communication.
it could
We're
be-
all communicating with you about the same thing.
But it's not a serial communication. It's all one way. The serial communication is when
So my reading of the AG's opinion is the exact opposite. That if she speaks to you about the same thing that I'm speaking to you about, that is
Now you
enough.
met a quorum.
We've met the
me-
quorum
on
through-
a subject.
All right, well,
separate
we,
emails.
I will confirm that. I will confirm that. But so why don't everyone just get their questions ready? I don't even know what the time frame will be. Like,
Yeah, I'll
I'm not
send it to
sure, I'm not
Alvaro
sure
right
that
now.
in 2 weeks, I'm not sure I'll be able to say, oh, our timeline is this, we're interviewing on Wednesday. I don't think it's going to be that cut and dry. So I think there will probably be, there should be like obviously a few days' notice, but it may not be, oh, I need 2 weeks' notice before I can take a day off. That probably won't be the case. It's probably going to happen a little quicker than that. So, or a little, once we get the applicants, that we have to make it happen a little quicker than that and be more flexible. So So, but I'll know more about that at that time. So we're kind of just on the beginning process of it, but questions would be good. So yeah, so I guess, so send them to Alvaro at this point. He can at least compile them without names. And then it can, just trying to save you some burden as you start taking over more and more stuff. So. Okay, so any other questions about that? It's about all I know about it at this time. It's all happened really rather quickly. Rather quickly.
Quickly.
All right, and obviously I'd like to get, Amanda and especially Deepa in on that process. Given that Deepa has a lot of longevity on the board. So, okay. Nothing else on that topic right now? All right. Okay, so then, next. Oh, so, okay, so we're back to 61 Waverly. So 61 Waverly, John Trefethen, Zoning Board of Appeals, has asked for input regarding,
Input, comments regarding the development. And so this past Tuesday night, the Zoning Board of Appeals opened the public hearing to start the public hearing process. So for the next 180 days, the Zoning Board of Appeals will be reviewing this project, right? It's 226 units at the same location, 61 Waverly Street. It is a new applicant, the Gutierrez Company out of Burlington. And most prominent is that the plan changed from a structural, from an organizational standpoint, not from a unit count standpoint. The Gutierrez Company did receive a letter for approval from Mass Housing to transfer the eligibility letter, the Pell letter, to this project, 226 units. And as you can kind of read between comparing the two plans is that the previous plan was made up of 4 buildings, 2 5-story, 2 4-story. There was no connection to Union Street. And the site was almost kind of depressed. So if you came down Union Street, the building looked like I believe that was going to be a 4-story building that looks like a 3-story building. At the proposed plan, you can see is that, number one, it's one building moved into the middle of the site, and there is a access to Union Street. So there remains access to Waverly. However, there is going to be access to Union Street, and it is within proximity of the high school entrance and exit. I think that is the high school entrance it is closest to. And I'm just looking on the plan over Tricia's shoulder. But yeah, that is the biggest change in this application.
I mean, I think yeah, so it's hugely different, obviously, than many of the things we liked about the other one. So we should just figure out how we want to break it down and comment on it. The difficult thing, looking at the egress onto East Union, I just don't see that as it would work as a, you can take a right going in. You'll never, well, depending on what time of day it is, you just won't be able to make a left out of there. It's gonna be, yeah. I mean, that line is just it's just completely filled. So during the, beginning of the day and end of the day with school, so.
Yep. Yeah, that was brought up, just kind of.
I'm sure it's, you know,
Yeah, in like, this is kind of it was the start of the process, right? And so at this point, the zoning board opened it up and they continued it for, I think, a month out. And so their next meeting with this applicant and on this process is going to be on
April 22nd.
April 22nd. With that said, the zoning board of appeals did accept the consultant review. MDM Transportation, who's doing the third-party review for 10 to 60 Main Street, they are also working on this 40B with the town of Ashland. And then also from a civil engineering standpoint, Hancock Associates is also working on the peer review for this civil peer review. This civil peer review, it's gonna have to go through conservation. It does fall within conservation jurisdictions, including, I believe, a vernal pool. So all these items regarding traffic, civil, they are gonna be put under the microscope through peer review. But obviously, at this point, ZBA is collecting all board comments as they kind of start the process. Just to make note, obviously, this information is all up online, same website, same kind of avenue that we always put the planning board stuff, all the planning board information up online. So obviously, we're trying to get the word out there.
okay, so we don't have, I think we had it last time, the letter that we wrote, but it really was much, you know, different. I'm just wondering if the letter that we wrote, can we break it down into?
So previously, when we've commented on 40Bs, it's been due, in my recollection, I could be wrong, it's been due to our prior experience with the project. I think we did that on Main Street, right? This particular one, we don't have necessarily prior experience with. Am I imagining, wasn't this the one that we were going to reach out to the Zoning Board of Appeals to see what feedback, if any, they wanted? Am I confusing it with a different 40B project?
Well, we did provide our initial letter to the state,
Okay.
you know, so.
Yeah. I can print, do you want me to print off the letter that we sent to Mass Housing?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
That might be instructive. So today, what we're really looking for is something we would bring to the zoning board?
I think we're looking for, if we want any input into this project,
Yeah.
if the planning board wants any input into this project besides us being individuals sitting on the
Right.
meetings, then what is it that we would like to
I
say?
mean, I'm just going to start because I think that I'm sticking to the 5 stories, which I don't think people actually like anyway, if you listen to residents. We need to get them to come to the table to update zoning. But if you're getting 5 stories, the trade-off was somebody said, I'm going to get some amenities, which could make it, feel like a community, like a little neighborhood community. It could potentially keep some traffic because your little trip to the coffee shop was now you walk downstairs. So I would adamantly say that if it's 5 stories, you need to come through with the first story commercial. That is like, and the ZBA should stand up for that. I think that's probably the biggest thing.
When we get the letter, I think we did have something,
We did,
Like
I'm just
that,
saying,
and-
because it's
Yeah.
dramatically different,
yeah.
we may be tearing down what we say, but I think that's, that would be a given for me.
Oh, is there more than one copy? It's just all one copy?
No, there was 3 copies.
Okay, I thought maybe I had your copy, okay.
So we already gave this to the zoning board of appeals.
Yes.
All right, I see. I did not sign that one, so I must have been out, which is why I don't recall it.
I think
So-
that's exactly right,
So
yeah.
thank you for the clarification. I mean, to me, we already gave this to the zoning board of appeals. I think. Hold on.
Yeah, the project
Maybe not. Maybe we
is-
did. Maybe we just gave it to the state.
I
And
think
if we
that
did,
one
the
just to the
project's
state.
substantially different.
Yeah. It's more, it's different from what we commented on June 20th, is what you're saying.
Yes,
Commented on the first,
on this.
on that
Yeah.
plan.
I got you. And it's-
Second plan.
Yeah, because the comments will go to the CBA if they would have comment filed to start the process.
So I suppose we can go through this memo and see what has changed and essentially make changes to the memo on the spot and hand over to the zoning board of appeals a new version of this. I don't think-
I have two first pages.
Yep.
Is anyone missing one? It says memo of the Ashland Planning Board on the front.
No, I got two.
Do you have?
Good.
Okay.
Maybe
I mean, the whole, just to pare it down, we do not need to be talking about any of the SHI at this point. or
Yeah,
anything.
so,
That can just go away.
right, the key zoning parameters have been changed. I mean, I'm just kind of suggesting how we go about this. Key zoning parameters haven't been changed. The height and mixed-use considerations, that section doesn't change because that entire section talks about 3 stories versus 5. Context and site. So the prior plan, it seems like there were several large buildings at varying angles. What do we have now?
One big
We
building.
have one big one. So it seems like the context and site section, we may need to rethink. So the planning board at the time had encouraged the team to rethink and create a more fluid connection between the buildings and natural contours of the site. That would be gentler to the land, more sustainable. Rather than standard raised site converted into plateau for large masses, development could feel integrated into the landscape.
I
So-
don't think we have all the details of that, but because I remember, they were making like a big bowl, basically, before. I don't know that they're doing that,
So
but.
do we think this is better? I guess what I'm suggesting is like,
No, I think just needs to be reworded. It's the plateau part, I don't think it doesn't fit in, it doesn't fit with the natural environment, like having one
one block.
giant blob building, right?
What would be an alternative? It seems to me like that is literally the only section of this memo that we're changing. So if the three of us can kind of come up with how we would frame that, so we're going to one big block.
I mean, I imagine it has some safety concerns, the way that building is sort of for accessibility of like fire and those kind of things. The new design, like to get fire equipment there. Doesn't it?
This is the
Yeah,
new
it doesn't
design.
appear like not quite right for that situation.
Yeah, I mean, in the middle, obviously, like, where does,
So, I mean, I guess that would be in keeping with like making it not one, but also like those are our purview under planning. I mean, not specifically, like the fire department has more weigh in, but like public safety is part of our zoning, and that, to me, this just doesn't.
yeah, I mean, on the one hand, we can say that, but building codes allow this all the time, and so the building is gonna be sprinklered, and it's gonna have different hose pipe connections, and it's gonna meet all the building codes that allow all kinds of buildings like this or more dense to get built, right? The building code takes care of that. So, it's not really a matter of, safety in a way, because.
I mean, my biggest reaction to this design is you have this kind of standard approach to a building where you're just kind of looking at a bunch of parking. And is there a way to design this in a way that's, what does it mean to be more fully integrated to the land? I suppose, is there a way to design this building so that when you approach it, you have more green, more of the building, and then you have the parking more on the back? I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas of being consistent with our prior comment. Because our prior comment wanted that type of thought about the natural contours of the site. What are your thoughts as an architect on that, Tricia?
To me, it's just so symmetrical, stagnant, has this kind of grandiose thing about it. But being symmetrical is what makes it cheaper. Right?
No,
So,
I get it, but the point
Yeah.
is, our comments are meant to inform the zoning board of appeals at our thoughts, and they can explore that with the applicant. So there could be room for them to negotiate, even with a 40B project. Building one big structure might be cheaper, but maybe moving it in a way that allows more of that landscaping and framing of it in the front is still doable. I don't know. So I'm just kind of, that would be my suggestion. My suggestion would be a softer approach than a bunch of parking.
yeah, I
Whether
think,
that means separating the buildings into two or putting it more towards the back of the site, or putting the parking is what I mean, towards the back of the site in some way. I would think that that would be more consistent with an attractive approach.
what do you consider the back of the site? Is it the high school side or the other side? See, because my inclination would be to get
I mean, my
more,
inclination would be to squeeze the parking, like to have this be, there's parking literally all around. That's what you see as you approach this building.
yeah, I mean, my,
Not the particularly attractive way to approach the site.
yeah, I think my top thing would be to increase the density of the trees, like move the building back toward Waverly more so that you can have a bigger buffer along the high school.
Yep.
And you have to question that egress there.
Yep.
I mean, because
Yeah, that's fair.
You
Something
know,
like that.
at least at certain times of day that's not, I don't know how they would regulate that
Yeah,
you
allow
can't-
more greenery in the front and move some of this parking out back.
I mean, I guess
If you want
people,
to keep the building as is.
yeah, I mean, most of the day, I'm not driving up and down there. I mean, I drive on this road literally every day. But most of the time you zip right by. So, and I imagine that tenants will learn very quickly that you don't make a left turn out of there between 7:50 and 8:20.
Right.
You just won't make it. And it's the same thing in the afternoon. They're just hours where you'll never make the left turn. So, and maybe that's just learning. Because likely a lot of the rest of the day, likely it's fine that you could make the left turn. So. All right, so, do you have this up on your thing yet? or-
I mean, I don't have the draft, but we can definitely, do you want to take a stab at drafting that now, Tricia? Like, how do you want to approach this?
What time is
I
it?
mean, I like your idea,
What's that?
so. I mean, I can try to put some language on this, and we can send it to Alvaro. Because I guess what I'm suggesting is this memo essentially gets edited, and when we get to context and site, these are our new ideas.
Do you want me to send you the Word version, Anna?
Sure. I mean, I don't know how you want to do this. We can kind of give language to Peter and he can draft it, or how do you want to go about this, Tricia? You want to do it on the spot right now?
Maybe push it along a little bit and then somebody can take it and tweak it.
So, I mean, I can just start writing and I can send it to Peter. So context and site. I think Tricia's points were, I think you were suggesting more landscaping here, basically move this lot.
I think there has to be a wider section of vegetation there to, because even what they're proposing isn't even as wide as what's on the high school. you
What
know.
is the street right here?
East Union.
So wider section of vegetation at the front of the site, East Union side.
Yeah, I mean, there's no sidewalk along that side. They have a crosswalk to use the sidewalk on the high school side, which is,
Are you saying, you're suggesting a sidewalk there, or?
It would be to not necessarily to anywhere, right, if you just put it there, so.
yeah, I mean, I think it would be better to have it be green and not a
Yeah,
sidewalk.
Wider section.
And to cross the road to use the sidewalk, because the sidewalk there is, it's used, but
It's
it's,
nice.
but it's not heavily used, right, that sidewalk.
It's a big path, it's a nice sidewalk.
a
It is a
nice
nice
sidewalk,
sidewalk, yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice sidewalk
Yeah.
on the other side of the street.
And it's not, like I said, it's not heavily used.
Yeah,
It
no,
can- It
you
can
just need
accommodate more people.
The
So I would-
connection's the key point.
Yeah, so I'd rather have more, not put a sidewalk on this building side and plant more trees, have a more density of trees, and leave the sidewalk just on one side. So, yes, it would be great to, we talked in our first thing about adding commercial, we talked about those arguments, I think we can still make those arguments. I don't see any of those happening because it's already gone through the state like this. And the arguments didn't work the first time, so,
Well, I mean, that's interesting. They didn't, we would have hoped they had more like forceful things, but they sent it back to the town. We do have a chance to comment on this, and we do have a chance to.
I mean, we can always comment, we're commenting to the zoning board of appeals.
Yeah.
So what I've got so far, the planning board would suggest the applicant consider a wider section of vegetation at the front of the site, East Union side. The planning board would, the planning board sees less need for the sidewalk there, trees more valuable here than the sidewalk.
Yeah, I mean, and they're not showing a sidewalk. So it's not like, so I just don't want them to add a sidewalk instead of
And then
just
the planning board
vegetation.
further suggests considering a way to move the parking spaces more to the backside of the building. That's all I've got. Very like high level kind of edits to the context and site. Or do we want to say anything about the block of the building? Are we okay with that?
No, but I think, so that goes along with, it's the Wildwood, right? It's supposed to kind of fit in. This is no attempt to fit in. And I
Yeah.
think we just, why not just say that?
Yeah,
It's no attempt to fit into the environment.
yeah, I think, yeah, it's kind of a complete disregard for the,
Mhm.
Complete disregard for the intentions of the bylaw.
yeah, for the Wildwood district.
Okay, I'll start with that.
Yeah, so if you want to send those comments to Peter
Yeah,
Alvaro,
I'll send them to Peter and Alvaro now, and I suppose,
it
That would be
shouldn't be too hard to incorporate into a memo.
okay, and then I suppose it can be looked at. Do we need to do this prior to the next planning board meeting?
I'll look at it when I get a chance.
And then
Send it
project
out.
planning is the next section here, and it talks about building D. But we don't have a building D anymore.
No,
So-
there's just all
so-
building.
Very, very high level
Okay.
edits here, and I'm gonna send them to Alvaro. Alvaro or Peter, who am I sending them to?
Send it both of us, and,
Okay.
I'm just gonna edit this letter, I think I'll keep in the main themes that still remain in this project. And then,
Yeah, but why don't,
I'll obviously take out the big table.
why don't you send the comments to me and I'll let me because, I wrote a bunch of it, I think,
Um, Yeah, we can call back Marcelo and say if
just-
final.
Yeah,
I
Marcel,
just
yeah.
sent you, I mean,
So I know most of our projects, we spend a lot of time commenting on the look of it. It is not specifically in our bylaws. There's some stuff in design review. But, so I know we have to, potentially have to be careful, but like, I'm sure there's some comments that could be made about this. And I was on for part of the ZBA, and I think that the residents did an amazing job of things, very respectful and very succinct and reporting. And one of them was, this doesn't look like it belongs in Ashland to nobody, nobody that was on, I should say. And the particular comment that I think was great was sort of like, you kind of have a model across the street of something that people sort of like and looks like Ashland with the school. And I'm just throwing it out there because, again, we don't really have anything solid in our planning board rules, but since we do often comment on that, I want to throw it out there.
It's hard to
People think.
tell, like, were they trying to match like a brick color in some of it? It's hard to say. I didn't see the presentation, so. But the rendering looks a lot different than the elevations. Well, I guess not, if you look at the, I mean, it seems like the school side, oh wait, which is the school side?
That's,
Yeah, the rendering from East Union Street. So the East Union Street side, it looks to me like it has a lot of similar colored brick, maybe as the high school. I'm not sure. It's obviously a little hard to. Oh, no, it's spruce look
Yeah,
fiber
no,
cement
it's not-
siding. That's what
yeah,
it
it's-
is.
it's not even-
Yeah, so it's not the same. Just the rendering made it look like brick. Yeah, so I'm not sure. We had less comments on it with this site, because it has no context besides the school. And I'm not sure, frankly, I'm not sure the high school is it's not a building that, I mean, it serves Ashland well, but I'm not sure it's a highlight architecturally of the town, that we necessarily need to emulate. On the other hand, it's there. This big building is a lot closer to it than the other. Well, there was one, I think, one building that was closer before, but this whole thing is kind of closer than it was before. So, yeah, having some kind of, I think is an appropriate comment, to have it be somewhat look like it belongs here, in some way. So, how they do that with that kind of footprint, be challenging, I guess.
Good.
So, but, yeah, so whatever, if you want to take a first pass at it, Peter, and then hand it over to, you guys take a first pass at it and send it to me, and I'll
I
work on
sent
this
to
well.
both Peter and Alvaro.
Okay. All right. So we'll just get that taken care of. It's a little disheartening. All right, so is there anything else we want to talk about with that?
No, I think that covers it. So we've done it.
Is there anything on the reports that we need to talk
Comprehensive Plan
about?
Committee is in the process of working on strategies, narrowing in on those. Kate and I are on the subcommittee that's meeting Monday with a few other members of the Comprehensive Plan Committee to help edit some of the strategies. And then we'll bring that to the next Comprehensive Plan meeting, which I think is the third Thursday of the month. That's that update, and I have nothing else.
let's see, there's a breakfast tomorrow that I'm going to that I
It's a
can't-
legislative breakfast tomorrow,
That's the one.
MAPC, Metro West Regional Collaborative. It's in Medway, I want to say.
I think we talked about it last time,
Yep.
yeah, and so I signed up for that. I'm gonna be going over there. I guess we'll report back on that in 2 weeks. I haven't really thought about it since I signed up for it, so.
Yeah. I traditionally go, but I drop
on
off
your
my
plate,
daughter at 8:45, and to get to Medway, I don't think I would be.
Yeah, you get there in
I don't
time.
think I'll be on time. But no, it's always good breakfast. I know it's always a legislative update, what's going on. It's my understanding that the governor hopefully will sign the Zoom continuation, so communities can continue to use hybrid meetings for public meetings. I have not, no one's confirmed to me that that is now law, but I know it was awaiting, and it was, it was holding tight to hopefully have that signed by the 31st.
All right, so just looking ahead, we will be needing a planning board hearing just at the end of April. Is that right? Is it, or sometime in April? We'll be having the planning board hearing for these bylaws. The one hearing that we need to have. Other than that, we don't have anything new on the horizon that we know of.
Yeah, really nothing new on the horizon for projects.
Okay,
The 240 to 60 Pleasant is
Oh,
going
yes.
to the design review April 1st. So I'm assuming that probably from then it will just come back to us.
okay,
From
so
there.
we need to put together that little memo for them, but that should be pretty straightforward.
Yep.
If you want to, do you have time to do a draft of that? And
Monday, I'll try to get it Monday.
okay,
Just to kind of put a note on that, it came in front of the Conservation Commission Monday. They're going to propose to install synthetic turf versus natural turf
wait, on what?
on the fields, the Pleasant Street soccer field.
Oh,
That was going to be regular grass, not regular grass, that was going to be natural grass. They are now going to, came in front of the conservation, and they said, we're going to try to do synthetic turf.
conservation wanted them to do
No,
something?
conservation did not
Okay,
push in any direction. It was in front of conservation, and they said, we've thought about it since the planning board meeting. This is a change that they are proposing.
I was gonna say, I think we talked about natural grass.
Correct.
that
We
came
talked
up.
about
Yeah,
natural,
how it
we
came
talked about natural gas, but when the project went to the Conservation Commission,
They changed it,
they since changed it to turf.
okay.
So just as that comes back to the planning board, just to make sure no one's caught off guard, it does change the stormwater calcs, and they're gonna have to redo all that stuff.
Well, design review, I'm sure is gonna,
Way into that.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
And they've submitted some renderings, so they are up online. The renderings that we talked about on the meeting, just kind of like showing what is the view from the street. So I will be sending that tomorrow to the design review with the agenda. But yeah, they will give comments on that.
Okay,
We had that cell tower, the Verizon one that went away.
Nope, that's gonna come back to the planning board.
Yeah.
The one up on Cedar Street?
Yeah.
Nope, they're gonna reapply,
Okay.
and so they're working through their process. Yep, that's gonna come back, and that's gonna be working through their process.
okay. I think we're at the end of our agenda. Is there anything anyone wants to add?
Nope,
No, it's very unusual, because we're,
I can make a motion to wrap up if that's what you're ready for.
I'm good with that.
All right, I'll make a motion to wrap up the meeting of the planning board at 9:11 PM.
Is there a second?
Second,
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Catherine Jersey guy.
And Tricia Kendall, aye. All right, thank you, everybody.
Early?
Well, it's like I always think, oh, we can handle this, and then it stretches out an hour after I.
Thank you, Mark.